Hey Kendall, Shubham, Happy New Year.
Hi, Cotter. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Hunter is out today, so I will be at the keyboard / at least running the votes, etc. Let's see if we get a critical quorum here of TSC voters. That's another question mark given the time and date. And I will screen share our notes. There we go. And I did ping Arun about attending today to present these two proposals of his. And that is, at this point in time, all I'm aware of on the agenda. If anyone has anything else to add to the agenda, we welcome that. And I guess we have time for some community questions, comments, probably. So we'll see who shows up here.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, okay, Scott, I can hear you. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron.
Hello.
We're waiting to see if we can get 3 people from the TSC in attendance. Let me ping. Pinged Raphael. Oh, and Marie Bremner is out today. Let me check that. She is, yeah. And 5 after. Not looking statistically likely we're going to get 3 of us on the TSC. Well, I'd say then let's start off by reordering things slightly, although I don't know that there will be community comments or questions, but let's welcome that because we can't do proposals without votes. The votes require a quorum, don't have quorum. So I would say that at least necessitates some sort of adjustment. And or maybe today just becomes a very short meeting. Are there any community questions or comments? Anyone wanted to raise broadly? Anything's welcome. No. I mean, so on the one hand, we have people here who would probably benefit from hearing Arun talk about these proposals. On the other hand, we'll have to repeat this process when we have quorum of TSC members. So I suppose it'll depend on whether anyone thinks they would not be available on next TSC meeting, which would be in 2 weeks, and would like to hear these proposals now. Arun, are you gonna be available in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
So would you like me to go ahead and walk through what the two proposals are?
I mean, I guess if you can do so quickly, I guess for the benefit of those on the call, we could do that. You'll have to repeat it, I think, generally.
Sure thing. I can do that too. So the two proposals we have are, one is unified base images for Magma. Right now we have 3 key operating environments, which is C, C++, Python, and Go. While we were moving to the containerized access gateway environment, we realized that there were a lot of different base images for the same operating environment. Like, for example, there's like a handful of Python images, is probably like a handful of C, C++ images as well. But primarily Python was where we hit the conflict, where we were trying to create an image with a name and we found something was already existing. So our goal was to standardize on, if these are the supported operating environments where you can develop on for Magma, here are the standardized images. That way, if someone wants to add new functionality to a C, C++ service or a Python service or a Go service, all that they would have to do is go get these base operating environment and build their service on top of it. The additional benefits that it would provide us is, if there's a security issue or any other challenge that needs to be addressed in the image itself, or an upgrade that we have to do, we do not have multiple copies of the same operating environment that we are trying to keep up to speed. You choose one base operating environment, you update that base file, and that's what is going to be pulled by everyone who develops a service on that. So that's the objective of this proposal. There are conflicting libraries between certain services. We would like to rationalize that as well, so that if you're a developer, and if you want to develop on a certain operating environment, it is common for all of us. So there are no inconsistencies.
Yeah, okay. I think this is similar. You're in the TNG calls. It sounds similar to what TNG, or it's in the direction that TNG was hoping to have things move in as well. I think that the execution specifics that I asked a question about, like, are these going to be Docker files that can then be aggregated to build, like, if you want an image that can do C++ and Python, will we be able to inherit those environment installation properties and generate one image that can rule them all? Should you want to be running integration test that involves multiple languages or something? And I don't personally have a sense for how that gets done or the complexity of that in Docker or generally Docker files.
I mean, right now, what we are trying to at least keep the user experience as is, if you are a developer who wants to develop a new service in one of the supported operating environments, what we want to simply just tell them is, go get your Docker file, pull this base image, and then add like an executable command for your particular service, so that it just comes up with whatever it is that you want to run. And if you look at the container as HW today, that's practically what it does. It is standardized on 2 base environments. One is a C, C++ image, one is a Python image. And all the servers that we deploy effectively take their source from these 2. I mean, we actually found some additional benefits for this, specifically for areas which are network bandwidth starved. So if you're starting like 10 services, it's one seed image that you have to pull exactly once. And every other service is effectively going to use the cached image from the local drive and just start adding layers to it. But if you're using multiple different images, then each one of them had to be pulled separately. And these are not really small images, right? These are like in the hundreds of MBs, if not larger. So
Yep.
That was like a side goal as well for us.
Do we have different versions of Go being used in some of these environments too? Is this part of this going to be an effort to get a standardization of our Go runtime and things?
Correct. Not just Go runtime. The hope is to have standardized runtime for all the services, unless there is like a real hard dependency that forces us to do something else. The hope is to have like easier for us to debug as well. There is no, it works on my machine, it works on my environment.
And that sounds good. I think there's a lot of work which we need to do to get that done. All right. I actually, we definitely have the option too of asynchronous voting. So like after this talk, if you'd like, we can send out an email and we can try voting that way if people feel they have enough context in the issue. And you did write up a pretty detailed issue. All right, should we move on to the other one? Or I guess any questions or comments by others on the call? Okay. Second proposal. Feature stages and gates.
Correct. So this also came out as like a byproduct of the work that we're doing for HW containerization. So some of the changes that we are trying to push through, either this or the blue-green upgrade that we're trying to do, these are fairly complex changes. And how do we communicate the maturity of this to customers so that they can start participating in it, knowing what it is, and more importantly, knowing what it is not. For example, the Docker Compose based way of deploying the AGWs today, we have tested it using like a couple of different test harnesses. We have tested it on SRS RAN, we have tested it on TerraVM, but then there are clearly other tests that we need to run. Like for example, we need to run LT intake tests. ENS team is currently trying to validate it using Spirent. And there might be other tests as well, like TM500, etc. But at the same time, we also want our partners. So today, there are folks at Google, for example, who have reached out to us who want to test this feature and start using it in their dev environments. Folks at Hive9, for example, have mentioned this, that they want to use in their environment. We want to tell them that, here's a complex service. It has not gone through all the different kinds of testing, but we are confident enough that you can use it in your dev environment, which is what we are calling alpha. We have tested this. You can run it for your development use cases. Once we clear additional test harnesses, we can say, now we are ready for beta. So you don't have to just use it in your development environment. You can actually use it in POC environments. Once we clear whatever GA gates that we have set, number of UEs that can be active at a certain point of time, and all these needs like release level testing, right? Once we cross that, then we can say, yes, we have crossed all the test harnesses that we have, met our GA requirements. Now this feature is GA, right? So that was the use case that we had in mind. It's not largely different from what, for example, Kubernetes itself does today. A lot of it is modeled from what Kubernetes is trying to do, where you can introduce a new feature for folks to start using it with known caveats. And then as you go further, you can improve its maturity. And at some point you hit GA, and then the community says, yes, it has cleared whatever criteria we have decided as GA quality. So let's go ahead and make this GA. We've added like a couple of guardrails around it to, especially around timelines, right? So we want to set a timeline that says, if you have entered as an alpha feature, within X number of months, you should go to beta. Y number of months, you should go to GA, so that we are not just inundated by projects which don't go past the alpha stage. So we are trying to put some guardrails around it, and also trying to define what would qualify for each layer. So for alpha, we are saying some simple packet pushing test like SRS RAN is good enough. For beta, we are saying needs to pass, like for example, Spirent, and I think we have put in Spirent and TerraVM. And then for GA, we are saying needs to pass LT intake tests, need to pass GA qualification, etc. So that's the outline, helping people start using the features and giving them necessary caveats on what we have done.
Cool. what came to my mind, just to ask a question. Have you seen other examples of projects using this type of move forward or die kind of a semantic thing?
I actually think Kubernetes does as well, and I probably should have added a link to it. But I can look that up and add a.
Yeah, if you can find an example, that'd be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Okay. I definitely get. I think this is a useful signal to overlay on top of our features. I guess one thing that's not here is procedurally, where would this table go, or whatever you call it, where we specify the features and how many, how they're where they are on this criteria, for instance, and whether they're alpha, beta, or GA. That probably needs to exist somewhere.
As to where this information would go, if I answer the question right, the hope would be to have it available on Magma GitHub, or our primary website, which has all the documentation, and say, if you're a developer, please look at our feature gates. If you're adding a new feature, please see if this applies to your feature. As we are trying to open up our test infrastructure and publish it on GitHub as well, so that others can run test infra on their own and not necessarily rely on the CI that is here. So I think,
Do you think a page on a docu-source page, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And I guess the other auxiliary question that comes to mind in a lawyer mindset is, what constitutes a feature?
Capability that Stack currently does not have. If it passes that test, it's a new feature, I'd say. I mean, there is one way for us to always tie it back to like a proposal, right? If you're adding a new capability, you should have a proposal. And if the proposal passes, then yes, it's a
feature.
It is going to be a feature.
Okay.
Actually, I do hear, I do hear not all proposals might be quote unquote features. Just thinking this through.
Shruti, you were saying something?
Yes, I also wanted to add that there's one thing for the feature to pass this test cases at a stage, like in Q1, but there has to be ongoing regression testing also to make sure that it is GA ready, like there's maintenance mode.
That's fair. All that I'm saying is, I don't think this effectively disqualifies that, in the sense, as part of the CI that Tariq is building, there is going to be like a pre-merge, post-merge setup. So if a feature failed the post-merge, then that counts against that feature, in the sense you cannot be beta because you failed this particular post-merge CI test. So I think this framework still allows for it. What I need to make sure is add that as one of the qualifying gates and make sure it's complete that way.
I see.
Arun, a couple of points from me, right? The first one is, would it be appropriate to put some kind of a coverage, test coverage, right? Like unit testing, 60%, 70% of test coverage, that's one. And the second thing is, it's a community developed products and features. Community is composed of different companies, individuals, and so on, right? Not everybody will have access to the test tools that you have mentioned here, right? So that's something to be considered.
That's fair. I think they are both fair questions. Like I mentioned earlier, there is one effort in parallel that we are trying to do where we can have enough in GitHub Magma for folks to come in and start an environment and deploy test harnesses against the same environment. So the first phase would probably be just enabling it in the cloud and testing it. And hopefully we can then extend it to actual physical infra. But yeah, I think that's a fair point. We should also tag along the requirement that it should be easier for folks to test it, failing which it would be the post-merge CI testing that I mentioned when Shruti brought up that request.
Yeah, I know that Tariq's image allows the community companies to bring in their own test tools, merge it, and post the test results and so on.
Right.
But my point is more about specifically naming like test tool like TerraVM, TM500, and these are multi-$100,000 tools, right?
That's
So
a fair point.
are,
That's a fair point. And one clarification I should have brought in, even for the software-defined test infra piece that I mentioned, we are trying to use open source test harnesses as the gating factor, like SRS RAN, UERAN SIM, S1AP, which we have. So I think these are the three that we have there as part of like a publicly available, everybody can run this if you can set up the infrastructure scenario. That's a fair point, Kadir. We cannot have Spirent, TerraVM, and other licensed products as a requirement because it's something that we cannot enforce non-open source. That's well taken.
Yeah. And also they have some legal stuffs as well around, like I've been talking to them recently. So if you procure those tools and if you use to build, test it using for your internal products and solutions, they're okay. But if you're trying to do it for generic open sources or even test your customer products as a test as a service, those are all some of the restrictions that they have on these expensive tools. Just thought would share that experience.
That's fair. That's fair. Any other questions I can address? Okay. So my primary takeaways, modifications that I would do to the proposals. I think the first proposal in its current form is seemingly okay. For the second one, we will make sure whatever gates we have here are open source test harnesses. And we'll also make sure we need this continuous process, not just pass like a unit test in a local environment, but the eventual post-merge CI as well as a test criteria. So Kadir and Shruti, adding those two, would they at least address the points that you brought up?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it should. Yeah. I mean, maybe you can look at around tip badging process, right? Just as a recommendation. So they don't focus on the tools, test tools and stuff like that. They focus on the process, meaning if you wanted to clear a badge, you should have tested these number of test cases with the coverage of these requirements, right? So if you go through that, then you're cleared on that particular badge. And the second badge is you have to test it with the community hosted lab, whatever the tools that are available out there. Or the third badging is you have to test it with your customer in the real environment and things like that. So maybe that's more generic enough rather than putting some specific, commercial tools into it. Could give you some idea.
I think the point on commercial tools is really appropriate and well taken. In fact, in our internal docs, that change has already been made. I should have made sure I changed it here as well. But fundamentally, it's a similar concept here, right? In the sense, you have to clear a certain level. In the tip world, maybe it's like acquire this badge by performing these tasks. While in this world here, it is clear this test harness and the associated test suites that are available from GitHub Magma. So the idea would be for any partner, any developer even, to pick up our code, add their feature, run a set of test harnesses, all available from GitHub, and then say, you said this is criteria, I have cleared this, so this feature should be alpha or beta 0, beta 1, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, understood. It's just giving you some pointers for you to get some better idea to enhance this.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kadir. That makes sense.
Otherwise, it's understood, pretty clear.
Okay, then I'll
All right.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, anything else on those two?
No, I was just going to pass the ball if you're a football person, or
Becky,
tag
probably.
if you're a wrestling person, whatever sports analogy works for you.
All right, I'll catch the ball. All right, so that's all we had on the agenda today was those two proposals. Any sort of comment or community input, and it seems like we have nothing else. Anyone else? One last chance to raise any topics, and otherwise we will call it for the day.
Scott, just a layman question, right? So today we had this LF and developers and tester conference. So we kind of presented 2 hours of Magma for 5G. I mean, are those kind of a topics has to be brought up here, or it's just no?
You mean the event that's occurring?
Yeah. So if we had like 2 hour session of Magma today, it's done, right? So those kind of things, should we have to bring it up to the TSC for approval, or is it okay? Just as a layman question.
To prove that you're having the event?
Attending and representing Magma in those events, right?
That's I don't. That is a good question. I would put you. I think we'll have to have the Magma Core Foundation perhaps weigh in on how that's intended. I wonder if that might be something where it feels a bit like TAC type of maybe responsibility more than the TSC. TSC is supposed to be focused on the technical code, architecture, technical topics, whereas the project, product future is supposed to be more the TAC. So I feel like probably that's more TAC than TSC. But we could ask.
Sure, understood. Anyways, I've done that for 2 hours today, and after
Okay.
doing it, I was thinking about it. Is this because no one knows in the MCF, right? So is it something should be said before, or should we get some permissions, or is it okay to just go and do it?
Right.
Just had that in my mind, so I brought it up. You mentioned TAC. Do we have weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings of TAC that we should join?
I don't think that there are. I'm actually unfamiliar with when those are held and how they're held.
Those are actually monthly, and so they don't meet as often, but that also could be something that you bring up to the outreach committee meetings, which we have every other week. I believe the next one is next Tuesday. It's on the calendar. If you want
Okay,
to
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I also think, I think that, advocating for, I can't imagine that advocating for Magma and is something you would need okay for, but if you're trying to speak as, then that's a whole nother matter. And that probably, that would need some sort of question to somebody.
Because pretty much in today's call, I represented the Magma community.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, so.
Hi, it's Ildiko here. I am attending that Linux Foundation networking event, and Kader, you did a great job, and thank you so much for doing it. And just my personal 2 cents that I really do hope that we don't really need an approval process for this, but rather we can encourage others from the community as well to go and attend these events, talk about the project, share information about what the community is doing. You did 2 amazing overviews of more technical details of Magma, which is also great because it will help people to understand better what the project is doing. I think what would be really beneficial is to get the community more involved in terms of, I got this opportunity to speak at this event, and share the information about it so other people can also help you to share that you will be speaking there. If you need any help from the community to prepare for the event, then I'm pretty sure that we would have a couple of volunteers to help out with that as well. So I think I would personally suggest to focus on sharing the information when you already know when the event will be happening, so others can put that on the calendar as well, or point others to them And of course, I'm not a member of the TAC, so I cannot speak for them. It's just my 2 cents to add. And thank you again for representing Magma.
Got it. I'll definitely do it. And in the announcement channel, Kendall really helps me with that, right? We did a few days ago. I think last year we spoke with in ITU, right? And now in LFN. So Kendall helps me with all those push through the marketing channels and announcements and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. We did reach out to a couple of folks to take help from the community, but the New Year holidays and stuff like that kind of, I couldn't really pull that through, but we were able to do it successfully. Thanks a lot for the input, the appreciation.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking up, Iltigo. All right. If there's nothing else, we'll call it for now. And again, every 2 weeks, welcome agenda items, any topics that you would like to have discussion on, whether it be developer experience, the Magma technical topics language topics, programming language topics, CI topics, etc. We welcome community questions or input for these sessions. And now that they're an hour long, we have some extra time. So, all right. Have a good week, everyone. Or 2 weeks.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.